Last time on the Rogue Reader podcast. We open with General Han Solo on the bridge of a New Republic calamari cruiser, returning to Coruscant from a campaign against Imperial warlord Singe. They exit hyperspace and see a fleet of what Han recognizes as Happen battle dragons. He then gets a call from Leia. She had traveled to the Hapes Consortium a few weeks ago and asked to form an alliance with them against the remaining Imperial warlords. This man, Prince Isildur, tells Leia he is the final gift, the Queen Mother's son, who Leia will marry, making her the new ruler of Hapes. Isildur tells Leia how he and Han have very similar backgrounds. He begins to tell a story of how in his early teens, pirates attacked his ship and killed his brother, which is what made him the future heir. We cut to Han, who's in a seedy cantina on Coruscant, where he is playing a very high-stakes game of sabacc, and he's going to win her a planet that they can relocate to for a new homeworld. That's how he's going to compete with Isildur. If Han wins, he gets the planet, and this planet just happens to be Dathomir. Two assassins jump out of the speeder, quickly rushing Leia to safety. More guards are showing up, and Leia thanks Isildur for saving her. He then grabs her and gives her a big, long kiss. Isildur whispers to her to come away with him to Hapes and see the world she will rule with him.
No.
And Leia tells him she will go with him. Corellia became a republic long ago, and Han has tried to hide it, but by birthright, he is the king of Corellia. Han grabs the gun and tells Leia to come with him to Dathomir before shooting her with it.
He kidnapped her?
He kidnaps her. He tells her he just wants 7 days on Dathomir with her. After those 7 days, he will take her back to Coruscant. If she decides she loves Han, she marries him and tells Isildur to leave. If she decides she loves Isildur, he will accept the consequences and go to prison. Cutting back to the Millennium Falcon, it exits hyperspace at Dathomir, and they quickly come to the site of a space station, a super star destroyer, and multiple regular destroyers. The Millennium Falcon, takes off to kind of cover their tracks and ends up crashing through the trees and kind of landing a little bit of a distance away. Isildur tells him he believes Luke is a good man and wants to go with him to find Leia. Suddenly, the group gets ambushed by several huge creatures. Leia recognizes them as Rancors, so the creatures from episode 6 and the Jabba's pit. Leia then notices that each Rancor has a human rider. The next morning, Luke and Isildur are traveling when they find the wreckage of a huge ship. He turns around just in time to dodge an attack from a red-haired woman wearing animal hides and wielding a club. Luke can't deflect them and is struck, and the woman grabs him, telling him she is Tenenil Dejau, and he is now her slave. We switch back to Han, Leia, Chewie, and 3PO, and they are led to the camp of the Singing Mountain Clan. As he is led up, another group approaches wearing purple robes. These are Night Sisters. Baritha then uses the Force to float in air outside of the window, and telling everyone that there will be blood before letting herself fall out of the window. Welcome to the Rogue Reader podcast. My name is James, and I love reading Star Wars books.
Hi, my name's Priscilla, and I just woke up.
And this is part 2 of the Courtship of Princess Leia for the special Valentine's Day episode. If you're just jumping in, stop now and go back and make sure you watch part 1 or listen to part 1 first. But we're just going to be jumping right into where we left off, which is chapter 15. So.
Yay! 15.
Tenenil has Luke, Isildur, and R2-D2 as her prisoners and is leading them through the jungle. She's thinking about how surprising it was that Luke was able to cast spells without speaking or making hand gestures. Sensing Night Sisters nearby, Tenenil uses a spell of discovery to gauge where they are. She senses them in each direction, the closest not being far ahead. Luke says he can sense them too and asks her to free them. He can help, and Isildur and R2-D2 can run away since the Night Sisters wouldn't be interested in them. She asks Luke that if she frees her, will he submit to being her property and mate. In a hilarious scene to envision, Luke looks her up and down and licks his lips. So he's like, "Damn girl, you fine."
No, wait, so is he attracted to this?
Apparently he is, yeah, because...
Oh, don't like where this is going.
He actually says he'll consider it, but he did not come looking for a wife and will not be forced into anything. He then uses the Force to call his lightsaber and free himself. Tenenil realizes he is more powerful than she originally thought. She has a plan to rush the closest Night Sister, using a spell to conjure up a storm and hopefully run by. She tells Isildur and R2 a path to get to her people, and then grabs Luke and races towards the Night Sister. They find her ahead along with a squad of stormtroopers, and Tenenil conjures a storm right on top of them. This is kind of her main thing throughout the book. She can use the Force and just kind of create a storm around her.
Ooh, I love that, like from X-Men Storm.
Mm-hmm. They're rushing through the storm, and then all of a sudden, Force lightning breaks through from the witch and strikes her arm and body, and the author even points out, and her breast. It seems to drain the life from her, and Tenenil realizes she's been influenced by the Night Sister to do this plan and fell into her trap. Luke suddenly rushes through, though, lightsaber drawn, and he cuts off the Night Sister's head. Just full on.
Oh, I thought there was going to be more about this person, but okay.
No. She explodes in dark force energy, and Luke proceeds to then kill the remaining stormtroopers. Luke carries Tenenil to a nearby cave, and he feels she is dying. And he rips off her clothes and begins tracing her wounds to heal her, starting with her breast, of course.
This is not okay. This is not how I want this to start.
Tenenil awakens, still burning, but having been healed by Luke enough to save her life. By saving her life, she realizes sadly this means he is free, which is their custom. Isildur and R2 are in the cave also, so I guess they just didn't leave, even though they were told to. They're just there. Luke asks her about the origins of her people, and she tells him the story of how people from the stars made men out of machines and sold them for war. For this crime, they were exiled to Dathomir, a place with no technology. At some point, a woman named Leia was exiled as well, and Luke seems to sense that this woman was a Jedi who had gone to the dark side, exiled in order to learn to overcome it. This woman taught her daughters how to use spells, which helped them take control of their world from the wild rancors. Those who used spells for evil become Night Sisters and were exiled. A generation ago, the Night Sisters began banding together under Gethzerion, who is their leader. They've been causing trouble ever since. About 8 seasons ago, it says, the Empire came and created a prison on Dathomir, and Gethzerion helped run it. But once the Empire saw what a power she had, they destroyed the prison and any ships they had on the surface, stranding their own men as well. She took the remaining stormtroopers, and she now seeks to leave with her fellow Night Sisters. Luke asks about her, their numbers, and the Night Sisters number about 100. And Tenenil's clan is only about 30, though. There's other clans, but they're all kind of far and separated from each other. And they all will exile people to become Night Sisters. And the Night Sisters were just smart enough to all get it together. Han, Leia, Chewie, and 3PO are having dinner with Ogwyn and the Singing Mountain clan. Han sees a lightning storm in the distance, apparently being caused by Gethzerion. Ogwyn asks Han to name 3 things he would want for the deed to the planet. He says he wants a way off, as much gold and gems as a Rancor can carry, and for Leia to be convinced to marry him. Ogwyn
I forgot about that whole thing.
Yeah. Remember, that's
I'm sorry
that
I interrupted you, but I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be angry again.
Ogwyn agrees to all except the marriage, saying it can only be Leia's choice. The witches plan to use rancors and spells to bring the Falcon to camp so Han can fix it along with all the golden gems. She tells Han the Night Sisters are gathering and will probably attack in 3 days. He considers giving the Night Sisters the ship so they leave him alone, but Leia says he can't. Emperor Palpatine himself interdicted the planet when he learned about the witches, apparently scared of what they were capable of. Han and Leia go to bed, and 3PO offers to sing Leia a song he wrote. He's able to mimic a whole orchestra and a bunch of famous singers, and he sings her the song that he wrote, The Virtues of King Solo.
So he's trying to make her feel better?
He's still trying to get her to acknowledge that she loves Han. He's still on Han's side.
So C-3PO, he's also now trying to be a wingman for him, despite the fact that he kidnapped. He thinks logically about all these things, right? He would think, you know what, this is not the time to do this.
No, he's very gung-ho on Han's side to try to get her. He didn't approve of the kidnapping, no, but he is still trying to get her.
Got it. Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
But the song, it's called... It's The Virtues of King Solo, and it has a very catchy verse of What a Man, Solo. Later, Han wakes up to Leia, asking him to come outside. He walks over to a cliff's edge, and Leia tells him to watch. She sings a song and starts walking on the air above the cliff. She tells Han to come, that she won't let him fall. Before he can, a robed figure springs from the shadows with a vibroblade and plunges it right into Leia's face. She screams and falls. Han looks over the cliff to see a bunch of women climbing up towards him like spiders on a wall, all with Leia's face.
Oh, so this was a pretend Leia.
It was a pretend Leia.
Oh, I was like, oh my god, Leia, now can control the Force. She's doing all these things, and now I'm like, oh, she ugly.
Mm-mm. The robed figure starts shooting a blaster down at them, and they leap off and scurry in different directions. Pulling back the hood, the robed figure is revealed to be the real Leia. She tells Han that I knew they would try and come for you. So already we're kind of seeing what the Night Sisters are like, how creepy they kind of are. Waking up in a cave, Tenenil walks over to Isildur, who is cooking breakfast.
Sorry to interrupt. So are the Dark Witches or the Night Sisters? Are they supposed to be gangly old witches or?
Yeah, exactly that.
So they're very creepy, kind of barbaric, a little bit.
Yeah, they're exactly like the type of witches you would imagine, from Salem or an old They're like old hags with powers and with a little bit of exorcist kind of in there. Yeah.
All right, that makes sense.
So waking up in a cave, Tenenil walks over to Isildur, who's cooking breakfast. She grabs his face and kisses him. Isildur is taken aback, and Tenenil tells him he is very good looking. But a commoner could never replace Luke. Isildur had never been called a commoner before, but he understands the comparison when it comes to Luke, who's very powerful. They all trek back to Tenenil's clan, the Singing Mountain clan, and Ogwyn welcomes her granddaughter, asking if she was successful. She says yes and grabs Isildur's hand, saying she caught her husband. Isildur is stunned, and that's when Leia walks in. After the astonishment of the reunion, she tells Ogwyn that Tenenil cannot make Isildur her slave. Ogwyn says she can, and Leia can either battle for him or offer to buy him. This is when Isildur realizes Tenenil's plan, as several of the other witches are catcalling him. They're like touching his butt. Some of them are like inviting him to their bed and like stuff.
Ew.
And it seems that Tenenil is what she's really hoping to do is sell him to the highest bidder.
Oh, so she's like hyping him up.
Yeah.
Dang.
She also introduces Luke, saying he is a powerful male spellcaster who killed a Night Sister, which causes a stir. They all head inside to reunite with Han and Chewie, who are repairing the Falcon. Han catches them up, and Isildur is fine to work with him for now in order to escape. Han tells them that they're going to need some parts in order to basically get off, fix the Falcon, and the only way they're going to do that is if they can sneak into the Imperial prison and steal the parts, because that's the only place they would be. Only Night Sisters have been inside, but there is a former Night Sister nearby, Sister Baruka of the Forsaken. So she's left the Night Sisters and is hoping to rejoin the clan, but she's kind of in exile right now. They need her guidance so they can infiltrate the prison. Tenenil then takes so remember Isildur she's now like Tenenil's slave, so she takes him into her room and she starts to take off her clothes, and she has a sponge bath in front of him. She tells him
this is the Valentine's Day book that you wanted to share with me.
There's not many.
I can see why. That's so gross. Go on.
Anyways.
Non-consensual, all of this, right?
She's just taking a bath in front of him. The only non-consensual thing is she's just making him be there.
That's non-consensual.
Well, he's her slave.
It's both parties. No. Go on.
She tells him that she thought Isildur wanted her, but realizes it is Leia he wants. She said if she were to free him, another sister would grab him. So for now, he has to remain her slave until he leaves.
Oh, no.
Isildur notices how muscular she is and appreciates it, because Happen women tend not to be very strong. He comments on it, and Tenenil says how she loves climbing mountains and getting sweaty, and then bathing naked in the cold snow on top.
Yeah, that's totally, disgusting.
Isildur realizes he's going to have a hard time sleeping tonight without dreaming of her.
So he's falling in love.
He's attracted to her.
Attracted. For sure. Yeah, that's a fair thing to say. But is he more in love with Leia? I don't think he's also in love with Leia. It's just an agreement that he knows he has to follow through, right?
I mean, that's kind of what we're going to... His thinking is definitely that he wants Leia because he does not want someone with the Happen customs. That's kind of why he likes her. He feels she would be different and good for his people.
Oh, so she's just a little different. Unique.
Yeah. Ogwyn eventually takes Luke and Isildur to another clan sister, Mother Rel, who is over 300 years old. She sees Luke and smiles, saying, "Master Luke, you made the Jedi Academy. How are the wife and kids? Have you seen Yoda lately?"
Oh.
Luke is confused but plays along. When she turns to Isildur, she says, "Isildur, I thought Geth Zarian killed you." She then says she must have been dreaming again and dismisses them. They leave, and Luke asks Ogwyn if she sees the future, to which she replies yes. She says Rel knew they would come, and their arrival means the end of their world. Isildur realizes that she foresees him getting killed, is worried, but Luke tells him these are just possible futures. The next day, everyone mounts Rancors, and they take the trip to Baruka's. Luke is shy to ride with Tenenil, and Han is like, why? He starts to say things like, "She clearly wants you. You both have the Force. You both come from backwater planets. She's a woman and you're a man. You can't tell me you haven't noticed her."
He's the one to talk about knowing about compatibility and that's just a womanizing thing to say. I'm sorry.
And my favorite thing, he says, "If I were you, I'd go right up and ask her if she wants to ride my Rancor."
He can't even ask the woman he loves to marry him. Nah, he makes it sound too easy.
While talking, Isildur sneaks up and jumps on the saddle with Leia, which annoys Han. The two are very immature with each other their whole trip. Han is like knocking rocks over when climbing a mountain down on Isildur. At one point, Isildur moves a tree branch back so that it whacks Han in the face when he passes by.
That's funny.
They're both on their Rancors swimming, and they start rubbing up, like pushing against each other as they're swimming across this lake. And just to stop them, Tenenil whispers a spell, and a water spout forms and just completely engulfs both of them in water.
Yeah, because they're just being so dumb.
Yeah. Leia finds herself, meanwhile, humming Solo What a Man, and she thinks that C-3PO specifically made it to be stuck in her head, which annoys her.
I can imagine, like, she's, like, thinking about it, she's like, fucking damn it! It's stuck in my head, that terrible song.
They get to Baruka's cave and find it empty, but decide to make a camp anyways. R2-D2 picks up signals indicating that 14 Star Destroyers arrived in orbit, so the Empire is preparing itself to hold this world, it seems.
Okay, so I was right the last episode then. That the Empire wanted to take over the planet.
They want to prevent the witches from getting out. That's why they're covering it.
Oh, they actually cared about that?
Well, because of how powerful they are. They don't want them to get out.
Okay.
When sitting around a campfire, the Rancors are grunting to each other, and Tenenil says they are telling stories of the first witch to tame and ride them. The witches taught the Rancors how to make armor and weapons and help them hunt, and for this the Rancors vow to serve them, though they despise the Night Sisters for treating them like slaves. So the Rancors are shown to be like really actually intelligent.
I was gonna say, I was like, that's not the Rancors that I knew from the movie.
Well, they're said to be bigger too, so maybe the one Luke killed was a baby.
Uh-oh.
Isildur and Leia get into an argument about cultures, with Isildur arguing how the witches treat Rancors better than men. And Tenenil says he comes from a world with women in charge too, so what does it matter? But Isildur says that's different because he chooses the new Queen Mother, so he has more power than they give him credit for. To which Tenenil just laughs and basically calls him stupid. Because we know his mom still has to approve the bride, so... Yeah,
that's just all in his head that he thinks he has a power.
This makes Leia wonder if Isildur is only interested in her because she's a natural leader and fits the qualifications for the Queen Mother, not because he loves her.
Oh, I did not think about that. Now this is on Leia though, because she was choosing a guy she barely met over a person she was having an intimate romantic relationship with for 8 years.
Baruka then comes in though, and she's shown to be very young, but she is like, her face is very bruised from her time with the dark side. So that's how they kind of explain the ugliness. It's, I guess when you use the dark side, it creates like bruises on your face.
Like a Senator Pulpy?
Yes. She asks why they're there, and Tenenil asks for her help with the prison. Baruka chants a spell, and the dust on the ground suddenly forms a 3D map, like a live 3D map, showing the prison, the active guards, walkers, even moving figures of like stormtroopers and Night Sisters.
Oh, that's cool.
Luke and Han make a plan to get in when one figure of a Night Sister made of dirt looks up at them, as if she can see them. Baruka screams, like, Gethzerion, and she just smashes it with her staff. Apparently, the leader of the Night Sisters, Gethzerion, is her sister, and she hears her voice mocking her all the time. Luke lets her know he is willing to help her heal, both physically and mentally, from the dark side, and he starts touching her bruises, which heal as he does. So, he's just... Yeah, it's nice. I was going to say he's just touching everyone without permission, but...
I didn't think about that, but thanks.
Approaching the prison, the group see huge gatherings of stormtroopers and Night Sisters and walkers getting ready to storm the Singing Mountain clan. Tenenil casts a spell allowing her grandmother to see through her eyes so she can know what's coming. And Isildur estimates he sees about 600 Imperial forces, and it's going to take 2 days for them to reach the clan. There's a part where like they're looking at the camp through the macro binoculars like that Luke uses, and Tenenil just grabs them out of his hands, and she's looking through them, and to her it's like magic. So it's like kind of cool that she uses magic herself, but something like technology is so foreign to her that's magic to her. To break in, they basically sneak onto these huge plant harvest droids who basically they hide in their baskets. They like gather plants and they kind of hide in the baskets, and the droids just walk them inside the prison. And they sneak through these grates and eventually find themselves in a laundry room with an old man. The man offers to help them with any clothes they need for disguises, and he reveals there are about 3,000 prisoners here, and they're all political prisoners of the Empire. Stormtroopers walk in on them, and Luke and Han manage to knock them out and steal their armor. Luke realizes the old man's going to be in trouble, so he uses the Force to erase the Stormtroopers' memories with great effort. The old man says he knows what Luke is, he remembers the Jedi, and thanks him. Meanwhile, Chewie, R2, and C-3PO are waiting outside, and R2-D2 intercepts a message from Gethzerion to Warlord Singe. saying Han Solo is alive and she knows he's going to come to the prison for the starship parts. They set a trap for him and plan to exchange him to Singe for a way off the planet. Luke and Han are disguised as stormtroopers, and Leia and Tenenil are disguised as Night Sisters, and they're making their way through a hallway towards the section of the prison with the disabled ships. The doors open and a group of Night Sisters walk through. They nervously pass each other before one Night Sister turns around and removes her hood. She is wrinkly, her face is like very warty, she's got stringy hair, and this is Geth Zarion, the leader of the Night Sisters. Mm-hmm. And her description is much creepier than like what some of her official images are. These are kind of what she looks like in official images. They gave her more of like a big bad look than I think a witch look.
I know, I was going to say, is she a woman?
Yeah.
Okay. She looks like buff, like strong.
She kind of does there. Mm-hmm.
But like she gives me the presence of like someone who's like strong but with like dark powers.
Well, that part's supposed to be true, yeah.
Okay.
She asks them what they're doing and senses they are afraid. Han makes up a lie that there's talks of a prison riot, which they're heading to stop, and she seems to buy it and lets them go. Mm-hmm. The next room they enter is filled with Night Sisters, but they're all eating and watching these holos of beautiful men and women and don't notice them. So this is, I guess, like a Night Sister break room or something that they just walk through, which is funny to think about.
So they're watching other people, like just who they thought were
I think they're watching like recordings of like, they're just looking at good-looking people through recordings or something. I don't know if it's supposed to be more subtle, like adult content or what. I don't know, but no, I think the author would have stated that if that were the case.
No, like they just admire beauty.
They're just watching TV.
They're watching the Kardashians, their version of Kardashians.
They find a room with all these broken ships, with one seemingly close to being repaired, and there's also no guards. And it happens to be a model similar to the Millennium Falcon. Everyone gets inside to grab parts except for Tenenil, who stands guard. She starts to hear noises, and when she goes to investigate, she feels the presence of Night Sisters. They suddenly appear in front of her, having used a spell to stay hidden. The lead one speaks a spell to start force choking Tenenil, which prevents her from speaking and making any counterattack, since they talk to say do their powers. Mm-hmm. But Luke can hear her through the force, and he rushes to help. Confronting the Night Sisters, he gives them one chance to leave peacefully, but they challenge him, not believing he is a threat. He then ignites his saber and throws it at one of the witches, impaling her before recalling it to his hand. Tenenil joins in, and the Night Sisters try throwing TIE fighter parts at them with the Force, and Tenenil just kind of gets really angry, and she creates a hurricane of winds in the room, throwing her own fighter parts back at them, and Luke warns her not to give in to anger. But at that moment, Han lowers the ramp so that they can all rush into the ship. They try to leave, but the Night Sisters are holding the ship with the Force, and Luke uses his own power to easily free them, and they take off. They immediately come under fire from the Star Destroyers in orbit. Grabbing all the parts they need, everyone basically jumps ship into a lake below just as it blows up. And recovering on the shore, Han says that he spotted the Empire deploying hundreds of satellites into orbit right before they crash, but he doesn't know what their purpose is. Reuniting with C-3PO and R2-D2, they play a message that R2 intercepted of Geth Zarion talking to one of Singe's men. Geth Zarion lies to him, saying that they have Solo captured, and Singe offers in exchange for Solo not to destroy their world. But Geth Zarion counter-offers, saying that in exchange for letting the Night Sisters go, they will serve Singe. And to ensure their loyalty, they will give him all of their daughters under 10, and he can kill them if they disobey.
Oh, hell no.
Luke asks Han why Singe wants him so bad, and Chewie just starts laughing, and Han says that when he blew up Singe's Star Destroyer on a previous mission, he called him up personally and insulted him with something like, "Kiss my Wookiee."
What the fuck? Of course he would, though. He would do something to be like, I have the upper hand, and then the moment he's like down here, they're going to be like,
it's going to bite him back.
Attack you, yeah.
Isildur laughs and says Han may be the stupidest person he knows, but he wishes he were there to see it. This Warlord Singe, he's used as a villain in another series. He's kind of bigger in an X-Wing series that he's used, and even though this is the book that introduced him, but Han has definitely been fighting him for like a very long time, so they do have kind of a personal rivalry. Luke, meanwhile, is worried that when he fought Darth Vader previously, Vader was trying to turn Luke to the dark side and not kill him. So what if he has yet to really face the full power of the dark side? He's worried about how strong Geth Zarion really is. And the author did this deliberately as basically Luke's next arc, because he figured these are Darksiders that are just going to try to kill you. They're not going to try to corrupt you or turn you. So that may be like a new challenge for him. But so far, I think he's got this because he's already killed a couple of them very easily. Isildur and Tenonil are laying down, looking up at the stars, and Isildur says he is familiar with most of them and asks her to point to one so he can tell her about it. He tells her of the people of a couple of them, and the author sprinkles in a little bit of real science here. He talks about how like he's getting light. The light is from, several thousand years away, and you're looking at people and how they were and not how they are now.
Oh, that's common knowledge, though.
Just there's little things like that the author will sprinkle through that's like kind of like real facts. Tenonil asks about how many people his mother rules over, and he tells her that she rules over billions of people and thousands of ships, which overwhelms her. Because Tenonil just thought she ran a village. She didn't really have a concept that someone could, how big the universe is and how someone could rule so much. She asks him if he will remember her when he leaves, and Isildur kisses her cheek, saying that when he looks at her star, he will remember her and wonder if she is looking back at him.
Are these Tenoka's parents?
Yes. Isildur is her father. So, spoilers, you already know how this is going to turn out.
Yep.
Luke and Tenonil speaking next. She makes more advances on him, but he tells her love is something that takes time, and when he leaves this planet, he will probably never see her again anyways. So he's like just rejecting her flat out. So he's being the only smart one in the book.
Yeah.
He does secretly think to himself though that he hopes to find someone like her, which he will with another Force user, redhead Mara Jade, who's going to be his future wife. But
you know what? Okay, so you made a comment. This was like off camera when I asked you, okay, this person is not who he's going to marry, right? Luke and what's her name?
Mara Jade.
No, the other girl. I can't pronounce.
Oh, Tenonil.
Tenonil.
I mean, that's how I'm pronouncing it. I don't know if that's the correct way. But.
So you made the comment being like, oh, he has a thing for redheads, which at the time I did not think there was like an attraction between the two. So when you said that, I was like, oh, he's gonna like her, but then they're not gonna be together.
Suddenly, Han cries out in his sleep. Luke and Tenonil feel a huge presence of some kind, like some kind of mind probe from Gethzerion. And then they hear her voice saying that she is glad Han is still alive, like in their heads. So she's basically used the Force to find them. Luke tries to read her mind and only gets a flash before she recoils her presence. Luke says they have to go now. Gethzerion has been marching her forces through the night so they can attack the Singing Mountain clan at dawn. Everyone arrives at the Singing Mountain clan as it is about to be attacked. The Night Sisters set the forest on fire, and the smoke in the air takes on the shape of Gethzerion's face, which is a really cool image. Luke knows they will be attacked if they rush for the stronghold, so he asks his Rancor, which does have a name, her name is Tosh, to leave her two best climbers to take the parts and everyone else to the climber.
Is he going to have a crush on this one too?
No, he's not going to have a crush on the Rancor. He asks her to leave her two best children take Han and all the parts and climb the cliffs to get back to the compound, while everyone else will remain and fight.
Can I be clear? Like, do they actually speak English, or is it like...
It's like that, and Luke just understands them.
Oh, I was just joking. Damn. All right.
Tosh sends them out, and as they get ready, like I said, the Rancors are really intelligent, but yeah, they are still grumbling, and he just kind of understands them. The Imperials start attacking the climbing Rancors, and a battle breaks out. We get a scene with Luke's Rancors using just like a bunch of like weapons and nets to destroy the walkers and stormtroopers. The climbing Rancors carrying everyone are swinging from vines to dodge blasts, and Luke faces a Night Sister who appears to be no older than 16. He asks her to surrender and leave, but she tries to cast a spell against him. So he uses the Force to close her throat to prevent her from speaking. And he asks her again to leave.
That's ruthless. It's almost... you never seen Avatar, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people have already. The Last Airbender Avatar. You know how there's waterbenders? Mm-hmm. They found a way, but it's very dark bending called blood bending. And because our body's made of 90% water, that they're able to bend a person's body.
Ooh,
but it's very nasty. Katara, she learned how to do it because she wanted to use it to take revenge on someone. And even though she was about to do something she was going to regret, she vowed to like never do it again. But that's what I'm thinking. It's like Luke used a very intense way to use the Force on a person, which I would never thought, to close up a throat.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of smart because they have
smart.
To speak.
It's just you have to be morbid to do that.
So he asks her to leave, and he releases her, and she still tries to kill him. And Tosh the Rancor comes up behind her and just crushes her to like a pulp. And Luke just can't believe someone so young could have turned so completely. They rejoin the others at the Singing Mountain clan, and there's like 50 Rancors lining the perimeter, and they're all ready to like roll down rocks at advancing forces. And Han's trying to repair his ship as quickly as possible, but the battle begins. There's witches like all around chanting spells. At one point, a walker is lifted up to them and starts shooting at them by the force. And Tenenil casts a storm spell so that it strikes the walker with lightning, destroying it. Night Sisters are crawling on the ceiling, exorcist style, and dropping into battle. Luke kills one and chases another off a cliff, and he ends up landing right next to Gethzerion. He gives her a chance to surrender, and she tells him she isn't impressed by his power. And with a flick of her finger, Luke feels as if he's struck by a hammer, and he goes flying. She lifts her finger again, and he feels struck again on the head, and he feels like the blood vessels in his brain pop, and Luke just feels that he knows he's dying. And before he blacks out, he thinks to himself, this is what would have happened if Darth Vader had really tried to kill me. So I guess I was wrong earlier. It's just a little bit tougher than we thought. Isildur is working on carrying parts to the Falcon when he hears a Night Sister exclaim that she found them, and turning around, he spots her in the doorway. Chewie roars and lunges forward, and in the blink of an eye, he rips off the Night Sister's arms.
Oh.
Or one of her arms.
Well, actually, I think he has done something similar.
Well, that's what Wookiees are known for doing.
Yeah.
Isildur then shoots her, and Chewie heads back into the Falcon with some of the ship parts when suddenly the wall caves in, and Isildur spots several Night Sisters crawling on the walls coming inside, making their way towards them. He yells at the Falcon to leave, and he tries to run, but a Night Sister is able to grab him with the Force. Tenenil, meanwhile, is in a rage after losing a friend in battle, and she whips up a hurricane in the winds of this corridor that kills a couple Night Sisters. But the act causes a couple blood vessels to pop in her forehead, giving her a mark similar to the Night Sisters. She runs back to the Falcon and sees it's being levitated by the Night Sisters, with one holding Isildur. She uses the Force to tell Leia to ignite the Falcon's engines, and then she runs and dies for Isildur. The engines ignite, and the room is filled with flames, basically burning the Night Sisters. And for Tenenil, we get a cool image of her diving midair, holding Isildur in her arms and using the Force so that the flames separate around her. The Falcon leaves, and Tenenil finds one surviving Night Sister who's dying. Realizing how close to the dark side she has come, she follows Luke's teachings, and she uses the Force to heal the Night Sister. So Force healing was always a thing back then in these old books. So when people, I guess that's why it never bothered me when people complain how Rey learned to do it in Episode 9. For me, it's just like, yeah, that's a common power. You know,
I forget, who did she do it on?
She heals the snake in the cave, and then she heals Ben later, and then Ben
he died.
Heals her at the end.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Han takes the Falcon and spots a group of walkers and Night Sisters, and he fires a torpedo at them, killing them all. This seems to break their spells, and as the storm in the area just suddenly clears up. Han whoops with joy, only for a black spot to appear on Dathomir's sun. More black start appearing until the sun is completely blacked out, and the planet is just plunged into darkness. Han and Leia race back to the compound, and they find Isildur and Tenenil, and the Night Sister she healed, and they all bring them back to the war room. We never hear from this Night Sister she helped again. I thought this was going to lead somewhere, but it doesn't.
Oh, thank goodness you brought it up then.
Leia is distressed because she cannot feel Luke in the Force at all.
Oh, no.
R2-D2 comes in and plays an intercepted message from Gethzerion to Singe. Singe is saying that he has deployed an array of satellites called the Night Cloak in front of the sun. They absorb all sunlight, and within 3 days, it's going to be minus 100 degrees on the planet. So he has they look like this, but he has like thousands of these in front of the sun.
Little spin toppers?
Yeah, little spin toppers. They make a deal. In 4 hours, he's going to land 2 shuttles, one armed and the other unarmed. The Night Sisters will bring Han to the armed shuttle, and the Night Sisters can board the unarmed one and leave. After the message Han says that if they can blow up a couple satellites, it'll bring down like the whole net, and that should like destroy it and protect the planet. But the Empire would completely destroy them, so it would be a suicide mission. He and Isildur look at each other and decide to draw straws to see who will do it. But suddenly Han is enclosed in a vision. He's looking through Gethzerion's eyes back at the prison. 50 prisoners are gathered up in an enclosed area, and stormtroopers start shooting and killing them all. Han can't do anything but watch in horror, and Gethzerion tells him through his mind that if he does not surrender in an hour at the base of the fortress, she's going to kill 500 more, and then another 500 after that. He cries out and makes a run for the Falcon, and Leia and Chewie follow. They catch him as he's making a call to the prison, saying he will surrender, just stop killing people. He then pulls out a grenade and hides it on his person. He plans to surrender himself to Gethzerion and blow himself up along with her and everyone else.
Shit.
In this moment, Leia starts crying. She realizes she loves Han and only wanted to marry Isildur out of a sense of duty to her people in the New Republic. Han grabs and kisses her fiercely, then starts to leave. Leia calls after him, and this is what I'm not making this up, this is what she says. Han, there are some things I like about you. I like the way your pants fit.
Those were her possible last words.
Yes.
You're sexy.
Hans calls back, I know. And she calls after him again, and she wants to say, I love you, but feels wrong saying it now that he's leaving to die. Even though she had no problem saying it during Empire Strikes Back when she also thought he was going to die. But without saying anything, Han just turns back to her and he says, I know, you love me. I've always known you've loved me.
No, he didn't.
I know. Luke, meanwhile, is lying down. He's feeling the force all around him. He feels like he's dying. And he sees a salamander poke its head out of the ground. And Luke sees the salamander, it's like glowing. And the salamander seems to speak to Luke, saying, here, friend, a gift.
I was going to say, aw, but then I'm like, this was Disney before it became Disney. Talking animals.
A mist comes out of its mouth and enters Luke, and he realizes he is seeing the Force. The bush above him also seems to give him some force, and he can even sense the blue desert people far away, giving him force, helping him. Luke was worried before that drawing on the Force was wrong. What right does he have to take the Force generated by others? But now he sees that the Force is more abundant than air itself. He could never deprive someone else of it by his use. He feels his brain healing, and he wakes up later. It's stated that he doesn't know if the animals were actually helping him in this vision, or if he was just drawing upon them. But I'd like to think they kind of were helping him on purpose.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like Snow White when she's just around, and then they're just around helping her with her chores, or Cinderella.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just there to help. Luke is Snow White.
Luke White. He sees a figure with a torch and calls out to him, and it's Han, who is happy to see him. He calls some people over to take him to the Falcon, and Luke senses his desperation, but Han says that Luke can't help him this time. He asks him to take care of Leia, and then he leaves. Isildur is with Tenenil, and Tenenil tells him that she's been banished from her clan for 3 years for using the dark side. After that time, she'll be allowed to return, and Isildur tells her that she can come with them to the stars, to Hapes.
I was going to say, why would she want to go back to the same family that banished her?
I think she thinks it's a just punishment for what she did. So.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, dark. Yeah.
She looks at him, asking him what she would come with him as. And he tries to tell her she could be an advisor or a bodyguard. And then she asks, what else would she be? Would she be his friend, his lover? And Isildur starts to just walk away, and Tenenil tells him, how could she be happy if you leave me? He tries to tell her that if he married her, a commoner by his people's standards, there would be public disapproval, and his cousins would try to kill him.
Yeah, no, let's not do that.
Well, Tenenil gets angry, and Isildur's blaster unholsters itself and crumbles to sparks, and a storm just blows through the room. And she says, I'm not afraid of your cousins.
Ooh, he's like, that's fucking hot.
She tells him that she sensed that he was looking for love when they first crashed, and they have been growing closer every day. She knows he loves her. She walks up to him, and he says, damn you for making a mess of my life, right before kissing her. Or she kisses him fiercely.
I'm sorry. This is a much better love story than the main characters.
It seems just as bad to me, but... Okay.
Why? What do you mean?
It's just as sudden and crazy.
It's sudden and crazy, but their chemistry works really well, and it seems like they really care for each other. Whereas I keep on saying Luke and Leia, Leia and Han, they're just finding ways to make it where they couldn't be together.
Mm-hmm. I agree there. Yeah,
and then this couple, they're just we can't be together, but then the other's just I don't give a fuck. I love you. I'll fight tooth and nail for you.
As they're kissing, Isildur just feels all his uncertainties wash away in the kiss.
Oh, that's sweet.
Luke is taken to Leia and Isildur later, and they can see he is in bad shape. He makes them promise to wake him in 3 hours. Leia says there's no way he can be healed in that time, and Luke tells them they don't understand the Force. No one does.
He's just I'll watch me.
Well, his experience with death has opened his eyes to a whole new layer of understanding.
Okay.
So he said he was afraid of never facing the full dark side, but I think in this moment he's never actually experienced the full light side before too, as a counter. He's realizing there's way more than he thought.
That actually does make sense then.
Leia, meanwhile, realizes they cannot detect anything in orbit, so the night cloak is effectively blocking signals. That means they could fly the Falcon out undetected. Isildur suggests they go blast the witches and rescue Han, but Leia tells him to wait for Luke to wake up first. Mm-hmm. Hours later, Han is taken by the witches and led to an Imperial shuttle that lands. Several stormtroopers are there along with Gazarion, and when Han waits for the right moment and then he pulls out the grenade, he's hidden and he presses the detonator, but nothing happens. Gazarion tells him that she sensed the device and disabled it with a spell. He was never in control of the situation.
Oh man, what a doofus.
The Imperial thanks her, and Gazarion replies basically just by killing him with the Force, and all of the surrounding stormtroopers just all collapse dead as well. The Night Sisters just rush into the armed shuttle, quickly taking it over, and I'm not sure what Warlord Singe thought was going to happen in this exchange, but I mean, come on. Gazarion approaches Han, and he's like, look, you got what you want. I've been trying to avoid you anyways. Let's just let bygones be bygones. And she floats him over to her with the Force, saying that he intended to kill her with the grenade. That would have broken her bones, incinerated her, and she's going to do the same to him, but slower. With a twitch of her finger, Han's leg just breaks.
Oh!
And that's what he does. He cries out in pain. And then he sees the Millennium Falcon flying behind them, approaching. And so he needs to distract Gazarion. So he tells her, he goes, what about the teeth? Anything but the teeth. And then Gazarion just rips out one of his molars of his face with the Force. But before she can do anything else, lasers just start striking, and she jumps out of the way and just runs until the shuttle starts to take off. Gun emplacements start firing on the Falcon, but it's dodging the blast with inhuman accuracy. It quickly hovers over, and Isildur rushes out and carries Han in. He sees everyone inside and asks who is flying and who is shooting the guns, and Leia replies Luke is. In the cockpit, Luke is using the Force to fly the ship, usually a 2-person job, and he's using the Force to fire the guns with an accuracy never done before. So he's like in total Zen mode. He takes them into orbit, firing at the Night Sisters shuttle, but their shields are too strong. So instead, he flies close to them and broadcasts a loud signal that the Empire can home in on, and this attracts 2 Star Destroyers that fire on the Night Sisters shuttle, and it blows it up, killing Gazarion. So that's the end of her. It's a very lame ending for her as a villain. I wanted to see Luke square off with her in person again, but she just blows up here.
The same one I said looked buff and powerful?
Yeah.
I take that back. Make sure you erase that.
She just blows up in a ship, which is very lame. Luke proceeds to take out the Night Cloak satellite grid, dodging fire the whole time. Han begs him just to leave, but Luke says no. It's not just a world of people down there, but plants and animals, a whole world of life, and he won't abandon it. It takes him 20 minutes, but he manages to destroy the satellite grid, and light starts to finally break through. They look up, and they see that a whole Happen battle fleet has arrived. And they're placing mines in orbit so that no one can exit hyperspace. So it's a full all-or-nothing battle is now in progress. One Star Destroyer is being covered more than the others, and Han realizes it's Singe's flagship. He tells Luke that he's going to take over because he wants a shot at Singe. Luke relinquishes, and Han dives straight for the Star Destroyer. He's caught in a tractor beam, but he waits until he's within the destroyer's shields, and then he fires a couple missiles, and the tractor beams just pull the missiles into them and blow up their own tractor emitters. Han then speeds towards the bridge of the Star Destroyer, and no surprise, he calls up Singe on comm. Singe appears and he tells,
"Hey, lick my asshole."
Basically, he tells Singe, look out the window, and then he fires torpedoes out, and then he yells, kiss my Wookiee, and flies away as the bridge blows up.
As crass as he is, Wookiee ain't what I think a curse word he would use.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, like he needs to vamp up his vocabulary a little.
Han feels a huge weight lifted off his shoulders, because remember, he's been fighting this guy's fleets for months. Leia comes over to him, telling him that he's won. And Han says the war isn't over yet, and Leia tells him, not the war, our bet. 7 days on Dathomir to see if she was in love with him. If so, she would marry him. It hasn't been 7 days, but he won. Han says he would never force her to do anything. He releases her from it. But, really? You kidnapped her. You're going to say I would never force you to do it.
I was going to say, too, just propose. Just say, marry me, and then let her have the choice.
Well, Leia says, I won't release you, and she kisses him, and Han doesn't care about the pain in his missing tooth anymore while they're kissing. We end the chapter with Isildur telling the fleet that it's going to take 2 days to leave because they have political prisoners on Dathomir to evacuate first. But you're right, we actually never see the proposal.
Oh my god, they never proposed. They're just like, you want to, would you marry me? Would you let me?
We never see it.
but But they're
going to get married now.
Yeah.
A feast is held on Dathomir, and Queen Mother Tachum is in attendance as well, and she's visibly annoyed with all the primitive arrangements. Han presents Ogwyn with the deed to the planet, and they give him all the jewels and gold that was promised. Han tries to refuse, but Leia says that they can use it to fund their own wedding. Isildur announces that he's going to marry Tenenil, and his mother quickly objects, forbidding him to marry a commoner. Isildur says she is a princess now since her mother has the deed to the planet. Tachum says he is foolish to think she will allow this, and then that's when Luke speaks up. He says, like you did with Leia, and then he commands her, lift your veil and tell us who sent the assassins to kill Leia. Tachum struggles, but Luke is using the Force to command her. She lifts the veil and tells them that she sent the assassins to kill Leia. Isildur is taken aback. He thought she approved as Leia as a pick, and Tachum tells him that Leia would have led them to being ruled by the New Republic eventually.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Be like, yeah, make this one your bride. We're gonna kill her though. Just kill her. Not that I would advocate for that, but they just have, all the characters have very convoluted ways around what their end goal is.
It's like Game of Thrones stuff, essentially.
Ugh, don't even bring that up.
Tachum also says that Leia wouldn't have had the stomach to kill rivals. And that's when Isildur starts piecing things together in his mind, because his first fiancée was a pacifist. He realizes, did his mother kill her too?
Yeah, that's what I figured that's what that was too.
And
it
then
was planned.
He takes it further. He's like, oh my God, my brother. Like, it wasn't my aunt. My mother killed her own child, because he was next in line too. And I'm assuming he had similar lighthearted feelings.
Oh no.
He accuses her of this, but she doesn't answer. She just storms off.
But she didn't say no, so that's the even more powerful answer.
But Tenenil then steps in. I'll just read what she says to her future mother-in-law directly.
Ew.
I'm going to marry your son, and someday I'll rule your worlds in your place. She turned. Her eyes seemed to be burning light as she glared through Tachum's eyes were glaring through her lavender veil. Tenenil continued, let me assure you that I am not a pacifist. In the past 2 days alone, I have killed several people, and if you ever try to harm me or mine, I will force you to confess publicly to all your crimes, and then I will execute you. I assure you, I find you to be that contemptible.
Hell yes. Okay, this is my kind of strong female protagonist.
Now, to threaten the Queen Mother is punishable by death, so the guards step in at that moment, but Tenenil just brushes them aside with the Force. Isildur tells his mom, you were afraid of the Jedi, of being ruled by spoonbenders. But if I marry Tenenil, our descendants will be the spoonbenders. Tachum hesitates and then says perhaps she's misjudged. Just make sure to get her better clothes for the reveal, and then she goes to leave. Just a last little bite, Isildur tells her that Hapes will join the New Republic. Later, Ogwyn meets with Luke, telling him that she senses he is not done here. Luke tells her there's a crashed ship out there, the Chunthor, that he hopes to come back and study one day. Ogwyn tells him a battle was fought with the Jay there, and a truce was called between them and the witches. Mother Rel was there, and Luke realizes something and goes to meet Rel. She hands him a box, saying it contains many records from the Jedi. The witches wanted it opened badly, but the Jedi locked it up and said they could never risk the knowledge getting to the hands of the Night Sisters. Yoda entrusted it to her, saying that Luke would use it in the future. So I guess Yoda had a vision at that time. Luke takes the box and he inputs Yoda's name, which unlocks it and opens it up. And inside is just a ton of records on the Jedi and their history in the Old Republic. So everything he's been looking for. Before departing, Luke takes Tenenil's hands and looks into her eyes. He tells her that she will have a daughter, and when ready, she can send her to Luke for training. So we get our foreshadowing of Tenel Ka right there.
I got body chills.
I'm so glad I started with the Young Jedi Knight series as one of our first things we did on this podcast, because it just ties into this so well.
Did you think that would happen?
No, I didn't realize it was going to line up.
It works out.
6 weeks later, Luke is to be the best man at Han and Leia's wedding on Coruscant. He is late as the driver took him to the Alderaanian embassy and not the Alderanian embassy, which is, classic mistake.
Wait, what? So it's a misspelling?
His driver took her to the Alderaanians, not the Alderanians. I guess there's two different races.
So it was like a Seinfeld or Friends thing. It was like, messed it up by accident. Now we're going to be late for the wedding.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
He's rushing in, and C-3PO meets him, telling him that he's got terrible news. He found out from that city computer that Han's great-grandfather was a liar and was hanged for pretending to be royalty.
So he's not royalty.
He's not royalty at all. He says this is terrible news and they must call off the wedding at once.
Who said that?
C-3PO. So he does a complete turnaround now.
He betrayed
and Luke just tells him, don't worry, I'm going to take care of it. And then he switches off C-3PO and throws him in a closet. And then the book ends with him rushing in to the ceremony, rushing in just as the ceremony for their wedding is about to take place. And that's where the book ends. What are your thoughts? That's the end of the book.
So it ended where she's like not even at her wedding. She went to a totally different area.
No. Luke went to a different area and then he makes it back late. That's when he runs into C-3PO.
Got it.
And then he rushes in just as the ceremony is beginning.
Was he best man?
Yes.
Yeah, best man better fix everything before he gets out there. That was really good. I'm very glad that you saved this after hearing the other book series. What was it again?
The Young Jedi Knights books, which when this episode gets released, I don't know how far we'll be into it, but I'm sure we'll at least have the first one out.
The first one for sure, but I really do like this one a lot. And I love the relationship between the two minor characters. Mm-hmm. Way more than Han and Leia, obviously. That's the only disappointing thing, because when I think of Han and Leia together, they're not meant to be together. And yeah, they're a little like stubborn in their own ways, but it got too stubborn to the point where it was like almost abusive and toxic. Mm-hmm. Where they were Han was willing to gamble.
Really, Han. I mean, well, Leia too, because
Leia is a little.
She was gonna run off with this guy just for nothing, almost.
Well, for her people, because she's always had a duty to her people, especially with the trauma of losing her family, and her only family connected to Alderaan are her people.
But we do see her being attracted to him to the point where she almost is willing to leave Han just for that attraction too.
Well, I wasn't gonna leave that part out.
Okay.
No, but you're right. Like, she was kind of like emotionally cheating, because that is a thing where people just emotionally cheat without having any physical actions towards it. But they also kissed. Yeah, they're not perfect together. And the other guy, he just was like, he was just doing what was best for his people too.
Yeah.
And like, he was genuinely trying to connect. And then when he's like, nah, I don't want Leia, I want her. Like, he disconnected very quickly. So he knew what he wanted. Whereas Leia, no fucking clue after 8 years. Mm-hmm. And Han, he's just an idiot. But those are my thoughts. And I did enjoy C-3PO's little, like...
He's the best written in the whole book.
Yeah, the way how, like, he was like, you know what? Can't find anything good about you, Han. Sorry. And then he, like, makes a small little mistake by saying he's a king. Or, like, a part of royalty. And then now all of a sudden he's like, oh my god, you're not a king. We gotta tell the whole world. And then now he's, like, dead.
I mean, yeah, my thoughts align with yours pretty much. The only biggest disappointment is the whole ending for the villain, Gazarion. That was lame. I remember the first time I read this book years ago, I didn't like it. And I think I found it kind of strange, which it is, but maybe that's grown on me because I really enjoyed reading it through this time. It's like a very corny, seedy fairy tale kind of book, but in a good way. Everything on Dathomir is awesome, and I like the witches as villains, and I like seeing spellcasters in Star Wars. It's cool seeing how the Night Sisters are introduced. The characters are definitely very hit and miss. When they hit well, and when they miss a lot. But I don't know, I think that just kind of adds to the charm a little bit.
I think, like, too, a lot of authors are very focused on having a strong protagonist in one way of the dark force or another, but these authors are also not meant to stay long with a series in general, right? Because a lot of times I see all these books with completely different authors, even if it's like a whole series.
Oh yeah, eventually they got a core group of authors who would start doing books, and they definitely worked very close together. But I think in the early days you had a lot of different authors, but they still tried to work together. But yeah, it's not like there's one author in charge of all Star Wars books.
Like, they all couldn't maintain the same villain.
They could have, like Warlord Singe, he's in a lot of the X-Wing books. Like, that author took him from this and brought him into his books. So
that's true.
They did do that. So Disney did do a novel semi-recently. They did the Disney canon wedding of Han and Leia. That one's called The Princess and the Scoundrel.
Yes, that one I was going to comment about too.
And we'll cover that one probably next year, Valentine's Day. We'll compare the two. But
what about our anniversary?
That's not a holiday, unfortunately.
It's our holiday. Dang. Okay.
There's not
Valentine's
many books.
Day.
I need them for Valentine's Days.
2025.
And I liked this one more than the new one. This one is definitely stranger. The new one was like much more accurate, but this one is just more fun. And although we do actually get to see the whole wedding in the new one, The Princess and the Scoundrel, and it's much nicer. I do recommend this book, but I definitely think you have to be in the mood from it. And I'm sure by listening to this, you can already be a judge for yourself if this book is going to be for you or not. But it's not great, but it's very entertaining, and I enjoyed it. So that is it for this Valentine's Day episode of the Rogue Reader podcast. Depending on when this drops, most likely next is going to be the continuation of the Young Jedi Knight series. But that is it, so have a good day, and may the Force be with you.
Bye. Happy Valentine's Day. I love you, James.
I love you too, Priscilla. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Rogue Reader podcast. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, subscribe for more content, and share it to any other Star Wars fans you think might also enjoy this content. Thank you very much.